let's take a look at this. So we're establishing something within the psalm. What did I do with that piece of paper there? Too many pieces of paper. All right. So if verses 1, 2, and 3, we broke that down. And I did that to try and make that the most concise way of understanding verses 1, 2, and 3. So those key words are very helpful. Verse 4, we have here, so let me just sum up. Verses 1, 2, and 3, we have a picture of a king. There's no doubt. Sit, rule, the rod or scepter. We have a picture of a ruling king. Here we have a picture of priest. So it's important that you catch this. These are all the subtleties of what's in this psalm, that you have here the picture of the king. You've got a picture of a priest, and I'll do a little spoiler for you. Verses 5 through 7, you've got the warrior. And in the warrior scene, which I would like to get to, but I have other things to do tonight. We may do this as a part B of this festival. We'll see judgment, punishment. It's in judgment final, punishment universal. And a strange way to end it, but refreshment, he will be satisfied. That's kind of the way I've broken this psalm down. And it's a little, you say, wow, that's out there. But trust me, if you have any access to commentaries, knock yourself out. I had, this last week, I had one of the commentaries by a very prominent commentator. And I say this, it's going to sound disrespectful, but I honestly mean no disrespect. I do understand why somebody would only give a page and a half to this, because it's like, well, who wants to deal with this? I mean, stick with, Dr. Scott used to say major in the majors. Don't major in the minors. On the flip side, I can see people getting awfully confused. So there's one major commentary that they gave it it's really maybe a page and a half. If you include the bibliography, it was a page and a half, 2 pages. There's just a whole lot here for something that is this important. And particularly because we're talking about now this 4th verse embedded right in there that we'd like to just lift out, take independently, because we know it appears in Hebrews, and treat it independently, but we can't. We've got to treat it within the psalm first. King, priest. All right. So let's look at this. Your King James, the Lord hath sworn, and will not repent. Let's take a look at this in the Hebrew. So we have here, some of you who are studying Hebrew will know what that means. It is in the Nifl. I told you, it's the strangest constructions of all. So I know somebody here can tell me what the Nifl is. It's the passive. What is it? Right. It's the passive of the call. So the call is a simple active. This is the passive of that. So think about this. Has sworn, speaking about in the 3rd person, by the way. Let's put here, has sworn. This is going to be, it's a challenge, right? All right, has sworn, because we've got this oath word here, 3 Hebrew words. Has sworn Yahweh. Did I miss something there? All right. Has sworn Yahweh, and not, right? And not. Here's another one of these interesting constructions, another one of these Nifl. Now you tell me, we went from imperative commands to the 2nd person to Nifl in the 3rd person, right? So we know there's multiple people talking here. So when it says we have this negation and not, and here's an important thing. We're going to have to look at this word, chem, interesting, or the verb of this word. So let's skip over this. We must come back to this. Has sworn Yahweh and will, the King James says, and will not what? Repent. Is that what it says? Yes. How about change his mind? That'll come closer to it. Ata Kohen. We know this is a priest. Now, is this paying off for you or what? Some of you who've been studying and going crazy for no. What I'm saying is that the payoff is that if you've been following along in Hebrew, this is like, okay, yeah, I see it. Okay. So then you're going to see something else. Wait, it's like an infomercial. There's more. All right. We have here le'olam, which is to forever, sometimes translated it to eternity. And then here is this problem. Remember I told you there's one word in this. Your King James is saying, thou art a priest forever after the order of Melchizedek, right? Here's the problem. We see here, we have Melchizedek here, and we've got, they put a makef there. We'll treat that later. I want to treat this word right here. Very disturbing. That we must look up. Now, I know some of you who are studying with me, you're looking at that word and you're saying, well, I recognize that word. I know what that word is because you just said it earlier. Do you see what that word is? It's the word for word. All right, wait a minute. So we got to look this up because, you know, I don't know. This is what I have to tell you. It's a joy when you open up the scriptures, and I was sharing with one of the staff people, I believe it was yesterday. I'm just, you know, you can call me whatever you want, but I'm just not convinced that sometimes the right words were chosen. So what do we have here? And did they pick the right word? And are we looking at something that could be something else, or is it supposed to be like that? Oh, okay, all right. I think I'm boring you, so maybe we'll just do something else. All right. All right. So let's turn this ship around here. What do we have? Let's first start with, for those that don't have a brown driver brig, that is, we're going to get to the construction of that, but that is the word. If you were looking it up in the lexicon, we have davar. Let's go back and check out my tablet for a second. Daled, bet, resh. Same, right? Well, let's check it out. Daled, resh. Somewhere? No? Bet, resh. I missed one. All right. So, lots of pages. Lots and lots of pages. Now, we have the way you use the brown driver brig. You begin with the root, the stem. You're looking for the base. Remember I said Hebrew's a Lego language. And then you will try and find the construction. In this case, and this is very crazy, in this case, this is a noun. This is a noun. There we go. This ending is an ending that is not used in Hebrew anymore. It's very archaic. It represents a genitive that is not used anymore. So, forever, a priest forever. We have this word al. I know somebody here can tell me what at least one of those meanings of that word would be. Anybody? Upon. That could be one of the. So it's not that easy to say, well, you just translate it. King James said, after the order of Melchizedek. Now here's the dilemma. let's read through these here. Let's find the noun. So we're looking at a noun, and I think I need a feminine noun. Okay, so in the feminine, this is how it appears in the Brown Driver Brig. I'll write it out for you. In the feminine, you'd be looking at, so it's quite similar, ish, except for the ending. That tells you that's the feminine ending. So we have a feminine noun with an archaic genitival archaic ending. All right? So under this heading, we have noun, feminine, and then here it goes. So in Brown Driver Brig, this is page 184 for those of you that have one of these. We have cause. We have reason. We have manner. In the construct, with this word right there, because of or for the sake of, we got to look this up, friends. We got to look this up in the book, in the Bible, and see in what setting. I think this is Ecclesiastes. Let's see what happens here. That's exactly where we're going. The least used book of the Bible. Oops, did I say that? At least in my Bible it is. I hate to admit that. What are we reading here? Because of or for the sake of. I said in my heart concerning the state of the sons of men that God might manifest to them, that they might see that they themselves are beasts. Okay. So in this use, and it says 7:14 as well, we might as well just look at it. In the day of prosperity be joyful, but in the day of adversity consider God also hath set one over the other, to the end that man should find nothing after him. I'm not seeing this because it's in the Hebrew, so it wouldn't make sense either. All right. So what we have is because of or for the sake of, and then immediately they jump to our psalm and they say, after the order or after the manner of, and I want you to remember that. And then it says here, ancient genitive ending to soften transition in poetry. Now, this is what's perplexing. In the very end of this, if you're reading a Brown Driver Brig like I am, they give an example of something to put the capstone, which lends to confusion. So, ancient genitive ending to soften transition in poetry. And then it says Job 5:8, which we may not see in the King James. I would seek unto God, and I would seek unto God, and unto God would I commit my cause. My cause is the same as Psalm 110 in appearance. So, what on earth do we do with that? Remember, I said to you very, very carefully, the reason to do this type of translation is the difficulty to begin with. Forget about even getting to English. Forget about the King James translators for a minute. I mean, this would be a nightmare for anybody. But having to deal with some other factors, and let me just express them right off the table. This is why I was saying to you very carefully, how does one equate what you see in Hebrew if you were one of those people translating the Hebrew text into the Greek for the Septuagint? And could you find a word that was comparable to the essence of this word, which is used so seldomly in the scriptures, and make it make sense? And then everything that will be hinged on that Septuagint translation will influence translators that are touching the New Testament, which is why a tool like Redpaths or something, which gives you the key to the Septuagint, very much like a Brown Driver Briggs and a Strong's all put together in one, tells you that translation, especially right here, could have turned the meaning of this verse in a different direction. Now, why do I say that to you? You already know. I looked down at the clock going, oh, I think we need to go now. Martin Luther. Right? Martin Luther. And you know that Martin Luther wrote lots of commentaries, and this was the first of his Psalms lectures. And I just want to read one thing that he says. He says a lot of interesting things, which in a second go-around, some of them actually change just a little bit. You got to read carefully with Luther to see what happens. But this is what he says about this. You want to know?
Yes, ma'am.
Get on the telephone. Let me tell you what Martin Luther said. But before I do, I want to read you what the Targum of the Psalms says of that psalm. Well, there's all kinds of things you can find that just don't make sense. Now, in this particular, there's many Targums. This particular Targum, they will not use, they use the word memra. And you'll see how this flows. It's very interesting. The Lord said through his memra that he would give me the lordship because I had sat for the instruction of the law. Wait at my right hand until I make your enemies a stool for your feet. And it says here another translation, the Lord said through his memra that he would make me Lord over Israel. However, he said to me, return and wait for Saul, who is of the tribe of Benjamin, until he dies. For you are not associated with the kingdom that is near, and afterwards I will make your enemies a stool for your feet. Wait, there's more. The Lord will send forth from Zion your mighty scepter, and you will rule in the midst of your enemies. As for your people, the house of Israel, who will offer themselves voluntarily to the law on the day of waging your war, you will join with them. In the splendor of holiness, the compassion of God will hasten to you like the descent of the dew. Your generations will dwell securely. The Lord has sworn, and he will not relent. You are appointed as a prince for the world to come on account of the merit that you have been a righteous king. Where'd Melchizedek go? You're worried about who Melchizedek is? He just disappeared. The Shekinah of the Lord is at your right hand. He strikes the kings on the day of his wrath. He has appointed himself as a judge over the peoples. He has filled the earth with the corpses of the wicked that have been slain. Does that sound like David? Does that sound like Solomon? Does that sound like Saul? No. He struck the heads of the kings upon the earth, very many. Even that you can't connect the dots. From the mouth of a prophet he will receive instruction in the way, therefore he will lift up his head. Wow. All right, would you like to know what Martin Luther said? Because it's way more interesting. Now, sometimes people think I'm out there. I'll say things and, wow, that's out there. Let's know what Martin Luther said. For if the Hebrew were to be rendered in its powerful idiom, it would have to be stated thus: Thou art a priest forever for the word, or for the sake of the word, as was Melchizedek. That's what it says right there. You see that? That's Martin Luther saying that. That's completely going against every other translation that exists. You see it? Kind of interesting. Now there's a footnote here. In his De Rudiments Hebraicis in 1506, John Ruchlin points out that the Hebrew idiom al-davariti stands for propter aliquim or gratia alicius or super aliquim de aliquio or liquo. Luther's literal translation of the Hebrew idiom ad verbum or verbi gratia points out the component elements of the Hebrew expression taking apart. I understand why he did that. It's extremely difficult. Now imagine if there's that much difficulty, and that's why I said this word it's tough. You've got this archaic genitive force attached to a noun, a feminine noun. So think about that. So it's not like you can just say, oh yeah, well, that's that, and just dismiss it. If Martin Luther, who I think was well-versed in translation, dealt with it thus, it tells you that there could be an issue there. Well, you might say, what, somebody else have something to contribute on this subject? Maybe, possibly. I picked this off my shelf because it's a staple. I have to confess to you, I don't really read Calvin's commentaries if it's on my shelf. You can tell it's almost never been opened. I know, I just thought I would just say it, though. All right, this is what he says. He says, some translate the term, this word we're looking at, davarati, according to my word. There's a footnote too, by the way. We'll get to it. An interpretation which I am not disposed entirely to reject. We have two people here going in the same direction. But he's not going to completely take it. Inasmuch as David would be represented as affirming that the priesthood of Melchizedek is founded upon the call and commandment of God, because Calvin has a different interpretation of this psalm. It's somewhat interesting. But as the letter yod, that final ending right there, is frequently redundant, I, in common with the majority of interpreters, prefer translating it simply manner. Now, remember, I showed you that in the Brown Driver Brig, in the feminine, in the simple feminine, you can say cause, reason, or manner. So we might say that. We could very well conclude that you are a priest forever, and we'd have to pay close attention to this. They're saying after or upon, but after the manner. But you can't escape the fact that that is right there. And you've got two mentions of this, and I just picked two. Now, can you imagine? We're going to make this even more complicated for you. You're going to hate what I'm going to do right now. So, this was originally done. Oh, that would be there. This was originally done, if this will ever erase anymore. Here we go. This was originally done where there were no vowels. What on earth does that mean now? That's why I like Hebrew. It's like, I changed my mind. This. Now, this is going to, I'm going to read the rest of this here. Moreover, as not a few of the fathers have misapprehended the comparison between Christ and Melchizedek, we must learn from the apostle what that resemblance is, from which will be readily seen the error into which they fell respecting it, because a lot of these made a lot of different conclusions based on poor translation. For can there be anything more absurd than to overlook all the mysteries about which the Spirit by the mouth of the apostle hath spoken, and attend only to such as he has omitted? Such persons argue solely about the bread and wine, which they maintain were offered both by Melchizedek and Christ. He's going to go off on some sidebar. See, he doesn't even tackle the question here. not even going to bother with this. But Melchizedek offered bread and wine not as a sacrifice to God, but to Abraham, as to repast to refresh him on his march. because there was a controversy amongst the fathers of what the bread and the wine, did it represent and typify or not. He doesn't answer the question. Now, if it's after the manner, what he's alluding to is if it's after the manner, the church fathers then attached after the manner representing the bread and the wine that was brought out, typifying. But I don't believe that's what was meant, because we've got to deal with your priest forever. I have sworn, the Lord has sworn, and will not change his mind. You are a priest forever. Well, what do we do with that? Well, we're going to have some more answers when we keep digging. Now, we have looked at the Brown Driver Brig. We've looked at Martin Luther. We looked at the unfortunate translation in the Targums. And this sometimes I'll go to the Theological Lexicon of the Old Testament, which is a staple, and Klaus Westermann is one of the core writers, editors, has produced a lot of work on the Old Testament, a lot of work in the Psalms. Let's look up this word just to kind of see from the lexicon what they have to say about the word davar. Boy, you really may end up hating me after this. Oh, I should read what number 2 says on page 326. A convincing etymology for davar has not yet been found. All right. So they have distinguished between 2 root words. Davar, which is to be behind, to turn the back. And in the number 2 category, word or manner. They're grouped together. Word or matter, not manner, matter, TT. The rather rare root of number 1 includes a series of derivatives, debir, the back room, dober, pasture, derobot, or even midbar, a step. But root 2 stands remarkably isolated and is limited primarily to the frequent term dabar, which is word, or matter, M-A-T-T-E-R, and to daver in the PL, to talk or to speak. The much more weakly developed kal, nifl, puel, and hithpael, these are all the stems that appear. There's not too much to say on it. Also, and we're dealing with a noun, by the way, in the feminine, not a verb. Could be definitely functioning as a verb. That is clear. It could be functioning as a verb. What do we have here? Also etymologically related to dever are debra, matter, as a secondary development of debar, debir, as a rare form based on the verb midbar, instrument of speech, or the mouth, as nomen instrumenti. Why am I reading this? Because the bulk of these have to do with speaking and talking and word. Even though we have this in the Brown Driver Brig, I'm kind of trying to find somewhere in here. The noun. Here we go. The noun section. The noun davar has an important theological term, plays a disproportionately significant role in theological language, especially in the expression devar Yahweh, the word of the Lord, which is not the case of what we pointed out earlier. Well, that doesn't tell us anything. So basically, what we end up with is word, matter, manner, reason, or cause. And I'm still sitting on the fence with Luther right there, thinking, Now, just imagine with me for a minute. You've got to go back to the Septuagint. I pity people that are tuning in thinking they're going to tune into the candy parade. This is a bunch of digging people. We're just a bunch of diggers. Like word archaeologists. Get in there and And when you're done digging, you're all tired and your head hurts. And let's see what this says here. So, the Lord sware and will not repent, thou art a priest forever. Now I haven't written the English of the Septuagint. After the order of Melchizedek. That's verse 4. And we have here kata, ten, taxin. The word for being translated order. Well, let's do this. Taxin. Taxin. Huh. Well, let's take the shortcut. We just go to the, what I call the cheater's way to look something up, which have done many times when I'm in a hurry, which is go to the back of the Strongs and look it up in the Greek section, see what they say first, and we may have to go elsewhere. Taxin. Taxin, taku, taxista, taxion, taxinos, taxin. It'd help if I was looking in the right place. There we go. Taxis. It looks like taxi, by the way. So, regular arrangement in time, fixed succession of rank or character, official dignity, and the last word is order. So this remains still an interesting subject. We're not done on this because this needs to be probed a little bit more. But right now, I need you to get on the telephone.